Well, Razorback fans, we know that Arkansas has a big task in front of them against Auburn. Probably not going to win. But can they get a big upset later down the road? Let's talk about it on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Inside Arkansas Live, which you can catch every weekday starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Tuesday, and I'm just going to be up front with you on it. This is going to be a little bit of an abbreviated podcast, not too much, but I am going to be heading down to Auburn for the Arkansas-Auburn game. I had to do a little change of schedule, and so I'm recording this a little earlier than I normally do, but appreciate everybody locking in and subscribing and everything because it's been awesome to see the support and all that. But just wanted to clarify that and to give a heads up because I know some of you are going to be like, what's going on? What is this? I'm going to Auburn because the Razorbacks, they're taking on the number one Auburn Tigers. And I love the fact that I was waiting for a Razorback fan to do this to me. And I love the fact that they were literally going up and being like, hey, the last time that Arkansas beat the number one team, remember what happened? And the number one Auburn team, you remember what happened? Yeah, I do. And that's it's a little bit different now, It's a little bit different than what it was before, considering you're going on the road down there, considering that Auburn is literally a machine and a number one team by far. No one even comes close to them. And also, you are not that team from a few years ago. So just a few things, a few variations. But this is a big game and a big hot ticket. $121 is what the cheapest ticket going for right now. And we know that with this particular one, I'll be curious to see what the line is at. They don't come out usually until the day of the game. My guess would probably be Auburn by, 12 and a half, something like that. Totally see it. But it's weird because it's just, not many games you go to, and especially through Arkansas, especially this year even, with Arkansas playing slightly better. They're not perfect, but slightly better than what they were before, to think that they have no chance in this game. But that's really where I feel, and that's how I feel. And it's not anything against Arkansas, and it's not anything about, you're just a hater, you don't think that, you don't believe what any of that crap that gets thrown around. No, that's not the case at all. I honestly just truly am that complimentary of Auburn. I think that they are that good. And for them to pull off what they did against Alabama on the road in that environment and doing what they did, that's just not a team that has a whole lot of downsizes or down things. They're not having any negative things going against them. They're living right, as people need to say. But here's the deal. Other than Kentucky, though, in this SEC season, Arkansas is not really having any of those big marquee nice wins. Well, obviously, because they're 4-8, and you've only won 4 SEC games. And even if you won out, folks, you're going to go 10-8 if you won out, and you're not going to win out. So odds are Arkansas is going to have a 500 record, if not worse, a losing record in the SEC. We know that that's okay. We've talked about it. I know Cal says it's not okay, but getting to the tournament's the most important thing. As long as you get to the tournament, you got to win and take care of the games that are in front of you in the easiest regard. And Auburn's not it. I would love nothing more for Arkansas than to beat Auburn. I'm probably going to do a what if Arkansas beats Auburn tomorrow on the podcast because I know it's fun to discuss. But I'm just not chalking that one up for it. So where does it come from? Like Arkansas, they need to have more than just a Kentucky win, which was a nice win. But they need to have more. And with the schedule remaining, the only ones that Arkansas really has left would be Missouri at home in Bud Walton Arena this Saturday. They have Mississippi State at home at the end of the season, who they're still 21st in the country. That's on March 8th, also on a Saturday. And then maybe at Vanderbilt. Maybe, because Vanderbilt seems to be a team that many think is in the tournament. They're 17-8, 5-7 in conference play. But still nowhere close. But that's it. You have 3 ranked teams left on your schedule with Auburn, Missouri, Mississippi State. And the other opponents, and Texas and South Carolina, especially Texas at home, is not going to do anything for you. And at South Carolina, the worst team in the SEC, is definitely not going to do anything for you. So where are you going to get it from? How are you going to get it? And what way you're going to get it? Well, you'll take the wins no matter how they come. I mean, you're just that's just how it is. Like you'll take the wins, you'll get to the tournament, you'll be excited about it, no matter how it happens, and no matter in the way that it happens, you'll love it. But I truly am hoping, realistically speaking, again, assuming that Arkansas is going to lose Auburn, that Missouri game would be a really nice one. You get them at home. They absolutely embarrassed you there in Missouri earlier in the year. That one was about as bad as it could get. You know, the Tennessee game you lost by a more margin, but at least with Tennessee, it was a top 10 team, number 1 team in the country at the time, and it seemed like just a little bit more justifiable. Still not great. But this particular game against Missouri, you definitely want to take care of business, and it would be nice also not to get swept by Missouri both in football and in basketball. That should never happen. Should never happen. I like Dennis Gates, and I honestly truly believe he should be Coach of the Year. I know Bruce Pearl's probably going to get it, which, again, I don't have too much of an issue. Todd Golden maybe even in the running, which I think he's done a phenomenal job. But going from 0-18 with Missouri and going into where they have 8 wins as of right now, so they're going to more than likely finish with a 500 record or above in SEC play, is an incredible thing. And so I'm all about that. But you got to be able to win, to me, the rest of your home games. And that would include a couple more wins against high-quality opponents. I just don't want to get into this battle. I don't want to get into this. This is really what I don't want. I don't want to have us sitting here on March 7th, that Friday, on the podcast, looking at that Mississippi State game saying, this is it. If Arkansas has to win this game if they even want a shot at the NCAA tournament. I don't want to do that. That's not living right. Or in the case of, okay, well, you beat Mississippi State and maybe you win a game or 2 in the SEC tournament and then you're in. No, I don't want to do that either. It's about getting into the NCAA tournament. That's the first and foremost, most important thing. But I am more about taking care of business in the games that you're supposed to leading up to it. And then that Mississippi State game can just be icing on the cake. It could just be a way of boosting your standings in the SEC, maybe even flirting with a better seed. Now, what does that mean between a 10 or 11 seed? I don't know. But I want to go into that particular game feeling comfortable that Arkansas is for sure in the NCAA tournament. I want to feel that. And what Arkansas cannot do under any circumstance is have the fragile mindset like Calipari referred to after the loss to Texas A&M. There was never been a time where I thought that Arkansas was a fragile team. I thought that maybe they were lacking chemistry. I thought that they were lacking depth. I thought that they were lacking, the health, especially, trying to navigate through all of that. I thought all those things. But to me, it's always been about, this team fighting. And the effort's always been there. And being, for the most part, mentally tough. Because I've said many times, what Arkansas did going into that Kentucky game in Rupp Arena, knowing what was on the line, and being able to take care of business, that was not, to me, a fragile team. That was not a weak team. And a team that gave Alabama all they wanted at the end and stormed back in that game. Still lost, but they were down as many as 18 points and cut it to, 2 points, 3 points there at the very end. To me, that's not what fragile, weak teams do. But when Cal mentioned that, well, he knows the team better than me. Was it a fragile moment or was it a fragile team in general? I guess we'll find out here soon. But if you want to be considered to be a tournament team, and if you believe that you're in the tournament team, you got to start taking care of some business. You had your chance against A&M, you blew it. It is what it is. No one at all is going to expect you to go into Auburn and win. And honestly, after that game, even if you lost by 20, I'd be hard-pressed to think that any of these bracketologists or anything is bumping Arkansas down out of the tournament because they lost to Auburn. No one's doing that. But that Missouri game at home, you better win. You win that game. Beat Missouri, beat Texas, beat South Carolina. Go win those 3 straight games. Because I believe, for one, you should win all 3. Missouri's good, but it's like you have it at home. You're playing better. You know what's on the line. And at that point in time, you may have lost 2 in a row. Take care of business. You win those 3 games, you're good. you're good. Obviously, winning at Vanderbilt and winning at Mississippi State, icing on the cake. But to just take care of the business against the teams you're supposed to take care of, that's all I ask. That's all I ask at this point. We'll talk a little Razorback baseball here in a second. So stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, folks, this is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was dealing with piles of paperwork and frustrating forms, and then waiting and wondering if you were ever going to get your money back. Now, Taxes is easily uploading your forms to a TurboTax expert who's matched to your unique tax situation. An expert who's backed by the latest technology, which cross-checks millions of data points for 100% accuracy. While they work on your taxes, you get real-time updates on their progress, and you get the most money back guaranteed. All while you go about your day. No stressing, no worrying, no waiting. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Go get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Razorback baseball, we talked about yesterday, was seeing how they were going to fare against Washington State in the final game, and I'd say they fared fairly well. Took care of business there. And, now they're sitting at 4-0. What does that get you? Nothing. I mean, you got a big series in Arlington this weekend against some really good teams. So what's that going to get you? Don't know. It's just a weird feeling, isn't it? Kind of going back to the whole deal of you're going to enjoy the season. You're going to enjoy the ride. You're going to enjoy these players. You're going to enjoy what they've been able to do, but you're just never going to be satisfied. But I was satisfied, honestly, with the I was satisfied with the showing that the Razorbacks had on the diamond in Baum Walker. And it was very cold. Weather conditions were not good. In fact, you could make the argument that Washington State was more apt to be in a weather like this than Arkansas. And so, but you did what you were supposed to do. I really like Beidel Shees, by the way, who pitched yesterday. Beidel Shees, he's that dude. He had 4 hits, 1 run, as well as 7 strikeouts, and faced 19 batters through 71 pitches. Beidel Shees is the one that I was hearing a lot about, and I mean this in the most complimentary way. He's gross. And what I mean by that is kind of like what Mason Molina was last year, and I want one of my pitchers on my team to be like that guy that's not a physical specimen, but just a bulky athlete, long hair, maybe some facial hair. Maybe the guy that looks like he hasn't, washed his clothes in a while. The guy that probably, spits wherever he gets a chance. One of those guys. Like that's the type of player I want. That's the type of pitcher I want to have. And that's what I think Beidel Shees is. And again, it's a compliment, folks. Don't take it as an insult. So if the Beidel Shees family is listening, it's not an insult. It's a compliment. But the pitching, again, it's early. It's hard to tell, but it's been about as good as advertised. And with Matt Hobbs and the crew that he's put together, I mean, it's hard not to believe that this is going to be at least another year of Arkansas being a top 10, top 15 team throughout the entire season. Plain and simple. It's about, when it comes to College World Series and college baseball, people are always bringing up pitching because pitching is the most important thing, which it absolutely is. I mean, it's the same way in Major League Baseball. It's the same way in all levels. Like if you have great pitching, you're always going to be there. You're going to be there. It's going to be what's kind of sets you aside, sets you apart, sets you ahead of the game. And always think back to that 2018 team with Arkansas, which we all know should have won the World Series. But they had a lot of reasons why they're really good. But what really put it into perspective and what really got them to that next level is having 3 bona fide starters for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You knew it was Blaine Knight, you knew it was Casey Murphy, and you knew it was Isaiah Campbell. And Isaiah Campbell, even though he wasn't as good as he was the next year, he's still really good. Like if that was your third option, I think you were in good shape. And that's what Arkansas, I'm not saying that they have the same type of pitching staff this year, but I'm saying that they got plenty of them. Plenty of options, plenty of guys, and dudes that are just going to throw gas and make some plays. And for that, I know Arkansas is going to be good. I know they're going to be in the mix. I know they're going to be a team that gets talked about. I know they're going to be a team that people enjoy and want to hear more from. but it's about the hitting. I know Arkansas is going to have a good defense, and I know they're going to have good pitching, but the hitting. Are you going to score? I mean, I'm not even going to believe it, and I'm not going to be convinced of it until proven otherwise. So for those of you who are saying, like, oh, you need to watch certain games and know what happens in those certain games, and then you can make your judgments then, that's fine. But, like, for me, hitting. Only that. Only manufacturing runs. Only scoring. Pitching could be great. That's great. Hitting. And you got plenty of time to prove yourself. You got a lot of good opponents that you're going to face. Obviously, the SEC is brutal. I'm not expecting them to be going undefeated and everything like that, but when you have runners in scoring position, can you make it happen? When you got players, there's nothing worse, and nothing more frustrating than what it was last year than seeing players and Razorbacks having runners in scoring position with one out, like runners at second and third with one out, or bases loaded with no outs or whatever, and either striking out and popping up or striking out and hitting into a double play. Just can't happen. So I'm encouraged. I feel good about this team. I like this team. I think they're going to be great. I think they're going to be a quintessential team that's going to be in the running for a College World Series. But I want a team that can set themselves apart of that. On paper, they may have the pieces, but on the field, they got to prove otherwise. We'll get into the final segment and talk a little poll question for you here on the Outside the Break. So stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I want to bring this up, and I'm sure it's not going to upset you or piss any of you off when I do, but it's just what I want to do. So I'm going to bring it like this. We asked a question on Inside Arkansas Live the other day about right now where it stands. Not this season or earlier this year or next year or anything, like right now where it stands. A very simple yes or no, or I guess multiple choice, what I'm saying. Two options. You got two options. Which one would you choose? Right now, straight up, right now. A Sweet 16 appearance this year with the Razorback basketball team, so assuming they make the tournament and go on a run, or the College World Series. Which one would you choose? Right now. And these are just appearances. This isn't winning it. This is just going to the Sweet 16 and losing, going to the College World Series and losing. Which one are you taking? Now, a lot of you did the College World Series, and I don't blame you. I'm not surprised by it or anything like that, but I think I might be crazy where I'm wanting a Sweet 16. And I'd rather have a Sweet 16. Some of that has to do with the sport of basketball and just knowing that it's a much bigger deal. And that's nothing against baseball, but you're on the national limelight, and it would also prove a lot of the haters wrong if Cal shut them up a little bit. And there's nothing better than making it into the second weekend, especially if you're an Arkansas team that can say, hey, for the last 5 seasons, Arkansas has been a team that's made it to the Sweet 16 every year. Well, for the last 5. That's pretty impressive. So I would just love that, and also to really turn this around. It'd be so much more fun to watch this team get it going at that point in time. I'd be all for that. And also with the College World Series and the appearance, it just doesn't do as much for me as it maybe it once did. It just doesn't have the same luster to it. I'll take it, obviously. I want to win it, obviously. And it would be really great for Dave Van Horn to not have 3 straight years of missing the World Series, especially having so many great teams. But I love a Sweet 16 appearance. And I would love nothing more than shutting up all those Kentucky fans and all those other fans of other places that just seem to bring up the nonsense all the time. If Cal can't get it done, well, if he wins that one, you'd be hard-pressed to find an argument to say that he can't win the big one, or at least can't get back to that point if Arkansas ends up doing that. But we'll see. I'll take either one, though. Appreciate each and every one of you listening and watching into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at John Nabors Show for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. We'll see you then.